You're definitely going to want to learn how to knit on a circular needle so you can make cute little hats like this one. And it's much easier than you think. I'm going to show you how to do it now. You cast on as you normally would, and if you don't know how to cast on, watch my video how to cast on. I have a couple versions, but one is very slow. So you cast on the number of stitches that you're going to need for your project, and then the hardest thing about knitting on the circular needles is the joining point, and that's what I'm going to show you. When you have your desired stitches, you're going to push all the stitches to the opposite end of the needle. Just keep pushing. Sometimes they get a little hard to push, but just keep pushing until they're at the other end, and that's where you're going to start knitting and make the join. Then, and this is very important, make sure all the stitches are facing the same way. You want them all to be facing inward. So there's a circle, all the stitches are the same. When you join them, the reason that this is important is that if it's twisted, you can never untwist it. So I can't stress enough, make sure all the stitches are in the same direction. So you're sure that all the stitches are pointing inwards, and now we're ready to make the join. And you're just going to take the thread from the other end, put it through what is now the beginning of the row, and just pull that as tight as you can. It'll all work out in the end. And just keep knitting all the way around till you get to the end of the row. You might have to push the stitches down a bit to keep going around for this first row. After the first row, it gets a lot easier. So just keep knitting, pushing, knitting, pushing. You're going to need to push these around to the back and these around to the front. Again, don't get frustrated. I promise the next row will be easier. Meanwhile, just keep knitting, pushing, pulling, push, push, knit. Now we're almost at the end of the row, and you'll certainly be able to know when you're at the end of the row, and I'm going to show you why. It's because there's a big gap in the knitting, and we're going to fix that right about now. There it is. That's where you made your join, and there's that gap. So first of all, we're going to put a stitch marker in the work so that you'll always know that that's the beginning of the row. Then you're ready to knit the next stitch, and you want to take the tail along with the thread that you're using and knit the stitch with both of those threads once, twice, and 3 times. That way the yarn is already woven in. You won't have to deal with it later, and then just continue knitting. Now you've closed the gap, and you'll never see that again. And like I promised, this next row will be a lot easier. You just knit and knit and knit and knit. And that's all there is to knitting on a circular needle. The basics of knitting on a circular needle are here, and don't be afraid of it. Give it a try. It's really easy.